Welcome back to News Talk. Tom Threlkeld has analysis of the Skins-Dolphins game a bit later on, and we'll look at the Nationals' late-season collapse. But right now, let's get back to our conversation with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, a Democrat. She represents the District of Columbia in the U.S. House. We talked with Jim Dinniger, the head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade, the other day, and he said that the ongoing problems that Metro is having are making it difficult for the agency to go to the Hill and tap the funding that everyone agrees Metro needs. What are you hearing? To what extent is Jim Dinniger right?
Metro had already lost some of the funding, and I'm talking about the $150 million per year we're supposed to get for 10 years. We have mostly succeeded in doing that this year. They cut us by, I think, almost $100 million. We were able, some of us, to get back some of that. We had hoped to get back the rest of it on some kind of CR. It certainly is not helping us to have daily reports, and perhaps that's too
not quite daily.
that exaggerates it. But it's certainly weekly reports on something wrong with Metro that looks like it's just falling down. I don't think it's falling down. But certainly it won't get fixed by having the Congress of the United States, whose staff, the whole region depends upon it. In fact, the whole federal government will shut down if Metro shuts down. We're not close to a shutdown of Metro. But nothing will happen unless it gets at least that funding, which never was intended to take care of some of what has arisen since. So it's only an annual amount that the Congress has promised. Yes, it makes it difficult for us. But, Bruce, if I may say this, if you were looking for a magic bullet, and there is none, I would find it in getting yourself a new general manager. If we felt that somebody was in charge, then I think that some of the pressure would go away everywhere. That delay is not only hurting Metro on the Hill or every place else, it's hurting Metro in getting a new general manager. I mean, would you want to go and handle the second busiest Metro system in the country that at least looks like it's falling apart even, and I stress, it is not falling apart? But when you hear about problems so often, you will think twice. So I lay that to the region, not just to Metro. They don't get to choose their own general manager, to the disagreements they've had, and to the failure to come to grips with an agreement on who's going to be the general manager.
September 24th, 10 days from now, will be a year since Richard Sarles gave notice. So they had a long period prior to his departure to start thinking about who his replacement would be. They didn't get someone in. Okay, so they had an interim, but now we're coming up on a year, and still no one can look us in the eye and say that we're close, or that the new person will be here October, November, whatever. I mean, they're not. It doesn't appear that they're far along. It appears that they're a ways away yet. Well, after a year,
they've made some change, a little change, in the advertisement for the person. Instead of having to have transportation experience, transportation experience preferred, they'd like to have some. They tried to compromise. Perhaps they compromised to say we want somebody who knows how to turn around an organization that's been failing, and two, we need somebody who knows something about how to run the trains on time. Finding that would have been hard enough without a whole year going by. They've made it harder for themselves.
I want to ask you a strictly political question. It has nothing to do with service on the Hill. It has nothing to do with any of the topics we've been discussing, but I want to get your read nonetheless. How do you explain Donald Trump's ability to defy gravity? He says things that I think most people agree would doom almost any other politician you could name, and yet he not only survives. We read just about daily that his lead in the polls is growing. Can you explain Donald Trump to us who are outside politics?
I won't pretend to be the seer here, but I would lay it to two things. One, the third of the Republican Party that seems to be for him doesn't usually vote at all. He's speaking to people who are disaffected. I think he's speaking to people who I go on to my second reason that you're looking for outsiders is the reason people looking for outsiders is they're ignoring the Hill. They know nothing gets done there. But they're looking at their own bottom line. They don't see that the political establishment has been able, since the recession, or for that matter, for 40 years, to help increase the income of Americans. The only reason that the income of Americans has increased at all is that all the women went to work. Well, the men and the women, and still we're flatlined. There is finally anger. That's why I think you see Bernie Sanders looming ahead. Now, the Republicans won't frame it that way because these Republicans don't have any issues at all. They're not ideologues. They're nothing. They're not the two-thirds of the party that is against Donald Trump. They are people who hadn't voted. Hey, I saw him on television. He says he can get anything done. That's exactly what I've been waiting for. And I'm not usually involved in politics. But everybody who's elected has to listen to what's happening in this election year because it could peel right off into the House and the Senate.
Could he have staying power? Could he go the distance?
It's impossible to believe that we could elect somebody who for most of his life has acted like he's a Democrat, now says he's a Republican, and essentially says, I know how to win, elect me. It's just impossible for me to believe that you could get a majority of American people saying that's what we've been waiting for. So I predict that he will not even be the candidate of the Republican Party, even though I have seen him rise, and I can't. It's just impossible for me to believe that they can't get a hold of this somehow. Watch out. The next thing that I expect to see happen, ads. They won't be from one of the candidates. They'll be from one of these anonymous super PACs, and they'll be telling everything there is to tell about Donald Trump, including the kind of thing that's on the front page of the Washington Post this morning.
Trump University.
Trump University. That turned out to be a scam.
So between the two of them, Donald Trump and Ben Carson have about half the vote, at least, maybe not nationally.
Of that third of the Republican Party, yes.
Well, if Trump's in the low 30s now, which is above the 20 to 25% that some thought might be his both floor and his ceiling, and with Ben Carson gaining, he's now well into double digits, has some of the others, including some who were thought to be real players, and still might emerge because it's early. You have so many people in the 3 and 5% range. Carson, if he's 19, and Trump, if he's 31.
Then you got a half there coming up.
And Ben Carson is tapping into that same. Now, I wouldn't go to a surgeon who was if I needed some, X, whatever, and I'm told, oh yeah, Dr. Smith here, it's his first time. I'm like, no. But in politics right now, it seems that for some, the idea that you're outside the system, that you've never done this before, is actually a plus. Carson's tapping that same vein.
So if it's anybody but them, you look at the only two people running in the Republican primary who cannot be identified with them, and neither of them looks very presidential to me.
You don't think Carson?
I do not think that Carson. I think people vote for him second because apparently he's people's second. But Trump is nobody's second. And why is that? Why don't they trade places? So again, my own explanation for this is economic, because that's the way politics works and that's the way presidential campaigns work. But at some point, I think everybody, even Republicans, come to their senses.
Hillary Clinton's apology for using her email wasn't said with much vigor. It wasn't said with much gusto, and everything we read suggests that she had to be dragged to say those few words that were the tone of which was a little closer to throwaway. I think one might say. It's subjective, so I guess this counts as opinion, but this has been a botch. I mean, probably having the personal email server and not even pretending to use the government system, and then to drag out this controversy so long, this has been a wasted, some say this has been a wasted 6 months for her.
Yeah, for Democrats. Bruce, it's hard to apologize for something that was perfectly legal at the time. That's where you have to bring yourself your strategic self to bear. And your strategic self would tell you that you want to snap this off right now, that people are not being convinced before you lose so much of your support. So the Clinton, and here I'm talking Bill Clinton, the Clinton magic, the Clinton genius, simply did not come to bear on this. And when you finally say you have to do it, you got to almost grovel to make people believe you, because you spent so much time looking like an apologist. And of course, she didn't do that, and she didn't put it together in ways that made people believe it as I think they should. So I am very worried. I am very worried when a candidate who I expected to lose a lot of support, because she started out with too much support for somebody running for president. When the support has been precipitous and so early, I can only say that she's got to do something dramatic to get herself back to where she was, like turnover, a complete turnover at the top of her staff, something very dramatic that will make people look and say, oh, thank goodness, now she's back.
It's interesting because I don't think anyone expected Bernie Sanders to surge in the way he has. And although I have not been in the field, everyone I talk to, everything I read suggests that little of that has to do with him attacking her and people turning to him as an alternative to her. They like what he's saying, and they like the authenticity he brings. These are not issues he has come to in the last 5 minutes because a report on a focus group said, here's the strategy to get to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is the Bernie Sanders that has always been Bernie Sanders.
And if I could just take authenticity off the table, I don't think that's why he's surging.
Okay.
I think he's got a hold of the issue of this campaign, income inequality. And it's particularly the issue for Democrats. I tell you, it's the issue for Republicans too, which is why they don't want an insider. But he has all of his life believed that the economy was rigged against the common man, and now he's got a chance to say it within a context that makes it entirely believable. So people, even women, who might ordinarily be thought to be with Hillary, seem moved to be with Bernie.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, no one was talking about the fact that the CEO, the ratio of pay, CEO to the guy in the mailroom, the woman in the mailroom, or CEO to median pay has jumped from 30 to 1 to 300 to 1. You know, obscene, grotesque kind of
and
ratios.
Nobody would know it now.
But I'll bet that's going to come up at the. This is my attempt at a segue to the Congressional Black Caucus event that you're going to be at this week. Several days, big thing. They've got the convention center. This is going to be huge, and you're part of it.
Oh, it really is, and we all get to have our own workshops. The income notion, despite the fact that there's a black caucus, you think they might only be talking black issues. We're going to be talking issues of concern to the African American community. I always do one on statehood. My statehood one on both of these are Thursday, 3:30 to 5 o'clock. It's called Marijuana, Guns, and Abortions. Can D.C. residents get their rights without a fight for statehood? Another is...
And these are open to the public. That's why we're...
100% open to the public. And then there's one, and I must say, I must compliment this program that it does not, it is not who we're talking about here, but so many we are. It's called The Media Are the Messengers, Negative Black Images in the Media, Movies and News, and What to Do About Them. That's also Thursday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. This has been an age-old problem of African Americans. We're going to have some real stars here, including Joy Bryant, an actress from Parenthood, who, by the way, is playing me on a on a film that's coming up. We're having Cheryl Pearson McNeil of Nielsen. Who is telling black people and white people and Americans and people all over the world who black people are today? We're saying that the way they're portrayed in the movies and the fact that you don't see them on talk shows like this kind of says everything about them. So anything they pick up is a stereotype that they're willing to swallow.
Although, as you mentioned, the door here is open to all.
Absolutely, you can prove it every day.
I'm intrigued by the notion of someone playing you in a movie. I'm going to buy a ticket for that one. Congresswoman Norton represents the District of Columbia. Thanks for your time as always. We appreciate you coming in at our new time. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time. An update for you on the hour's top stories. That's straight ahead. And how are you liking these cooler temperatures? The latest on the forecast as well. And then Tom Twelkeld on why Miami was too good for Jay Gruden and company at FedEx.